The objective of this lesson is to create equivalent ratios by partitioning or dividing evenly a given ratio and recognize a ratio in simplest form. Some vocabulary words we will be using today are partition and simplest form. Partition means to split or divide equally into smaller parts. Simplest form occurs in a ratio when the greatest common factors between the ratios is 1. In our previous lesson, we discovered that we could have more of a juice recipe and still have it taste the same. This is because the ratio of concentrate to water was the same. If we use cubes to represent the concentrate and the water, we can divide them into two equal groups. We now have two groups with equal amounts of water and equal amounts of concentrate. We can now see that the ratio of 2 to 1 is the simplest form of 4 to 2. This is because this is the smallest whole number comparison. Let's record this in a chart. It is possible to have a recipe that makes less juice than the original recipe, but this will result in fractions. These smaller recipes will still have the same ratio of 2 to 1. One way to make a smaller recipe is to successfully half each part of the ratio. Another way to create a smaller recipe is to divide by 2, 3, 4, etc. These fractional amounts in the ratios can be seen by drawing a picture. Let's look at another example. The ratio of the number of hands to the number of fingers is 8 to 40. By placing this ratio in a table, we can successfully half the ratios. When we divide the ratio by 2 or half, we can write in the table 4 to 20. Next, let's divide the ratio by half again and record our findings in the table. 4 to 20 divided by 2 would be the new ratio of 2 to 10. Let's find the simplest form of the ratio 8 to 40. The ratio is in simplest form when the greatest common factor between the two ratios is 1. Looking at the last ratio we made, 2 to 10, let's divide it by half again, or by 2. 2 divided by 2 equals 1, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. The simplest form for this ratio is 1 to 5. The simplest form is 1 hand to 5 fingers. The objective of this lesson was to create equivalent ratios by partitioning a given ratio and recognize a ratio in simplest form. We met this objective by partitioning ratios until we reached the smallest whole number comparison using counters and tables.